Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Eric Jordan, a partner here at the firm. Eric, we've talked about a lot of financial things throughout our years on this podcast. One thing we have never talked about are trusts. And that term is not brought up in small business. It's not brought up virtually anywhere except with the, wealthy elite. That's the only time you hear that word. Is it even relevant to a normal human being who works an actual job?
That's a great question. So, so I'm a small business owner, right? Just regular old average Joe. Nothing, I'm not
Average
ultra
Eric.
wealthy. Yeah. Average Eric. I'm running a business and if I get hit by a car and I don't have a trust or maybe even a will in place, what happened? And I die, unfortunately. What happens?
Okay.
Has to go to probate. Judge has to then determine who gets to take those assets and control them.
Okay.
Sounds like a fast process, doesn't it?
With my knowledge of courts and judges, I can say for certain it will not be a fast process.
Yeah. What do you think happens to that business in the meantime?
It probably goes through a whole lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty, as we know, goes very poorly for businesses. So
It does.
employees don't know if they're going to have jobs.
Yep.
So they would probably be looking for other jobs.
Yep.
And the client base doesn't know if they're going to be able to rely on you anymore. So they're probably going to go look elsewhere too.
Absolutely.
Did I do a good job?
I think you did a great job. And
I'm good at guessing these things. I have been on this podcast for a long time, and it's starting to.
It's all starting to click,
trends,
right?
yeah.
So the word of note, right? If you ever want to be educated in our field, come listen or participate to the podcast. So a trust has, when we hear about trusts, oftentimes you're thinking about how some ultra wealthy families trying to hide assets from taxes, probably, right? That's usually what comes to mind. Maybe I should have just asked you what comes to mind when you hear about a trust.
Well, I'm not sure if I think to myself they're hiding assets, but typically what it is I think that there's a huge ton of money coming along.
Yeah.
But to me, there would be no difference between that and then a will then.
Well, so wills and trusts cover some things. So let's walk through it, right? I have nothing, right? It has to go to probate. Judge has to figure out what to do with your assets when you die. When I have a will in place, the judge now has written instructions on what to do. Still has to go to probate. But they have written instructions on this is what needs to happen. Now, you can have direct beneficiaries on accounts and things like that to move control a little faster.
So that's why there is that the person who has been given authority or
designated beneficiary on your retirement plan, on your bank accounts, on all those things. You can have designated beneficiaries. That just means control moves immediately. So you do want to. That is a good measure to have that happen, right? You want to make sure that those are actually filled out with somebody that can pick up things for you if you were to die.
Gotcha.
And then if I have a trust in place, right now the trust already owns the assets, and we have pre-written determinations what happens if I were to die.
What do you mean the trust owns it?
Yeah, so the trust is a how do I say this? It's like a bucket. In which you put all your assets,
okay.
Right? And most of the time we're talking about a living trust. And that means essentially is I have this entity that's created and usually has its own FEIN number or actually it doesn't usually, sometimes it has its own FEIN number, but usually it's just we'll call it just a document of that directs how do I handle all my assets. That I put into the trust. And that's one issue when people create trust, they forget to actually put the assets into the trust too.
Okay, so let me get this straight. A will is a sheet of paper that has some instructions.
Yep.
While a trust is not that different. It's still a sheet of paper, but it acts as a bucket that contains more information.
Exactly. Yep. So a trust is created essentially to take your so you have multiple reasons, right? So there is one for tax avoidance. You can have and this is a whole different type of trust, but you have one trust that exists to take assets out of my estate. So they carve them out. They're owned by a separate standing estate. And what that does is if I die and my assets are over the estate tax limit, it avoids those assets from getting taxed.
Okay.
So that's one. There is one tax item for that. Another one is, hey, maybe I want to create some level of asset protection for my assets. So kind of like anytime you create a separate entity, right, it starts creating some layer of protection. It's still another hoop to get through. So maybe that's a motive for it. For the most part, it's for planning purposes, right? If I were to die, I want things to happen in a certain way, shape, or form. And maybe it is, hey, I might have all this money that I've accumulated, and I'm going to put my investment account inside of my trust, and inside of my trust document, and I have all my children and grandchildren, et cetera, as beneficiaries. I want X, Y, and Z to happen when I die. Meaning, hey, let's just say they get, I want them to be able to draw $100,000 a year for their lifetime each from my investment account.
Okay. So I guess kind of what I'm hearing is that, again, a will is a piece of paper. This person gets this person gets this person gets this. A trust would have levels of instructions that are far more complicated and have more legal strength.
Oh, yes. A ton. Well, again, a trust now becomes an entity that owns your assets. And a trustee, you would appoint a trustee to the trust, and their directive is to follow the instructions within there.
Is there ramifications if the trustee does not follow the instructions of the trust?
Yes. They can.
Even better.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Now, you'll probably hear about cases where funds were misappropriated from a trust and legal ramifications can happen.
Okay.
And if you ask me what type of legal ramifications, I'll tell you all sorts of crazy different things can happen.
Okay. What's all involved with setting up a trust? Is it, how much does it cost? Who do I talk to?
That's a great question. So we've established why, right? And it's important to understand why I want to trust. Business continuity, especially for a small business owner, business continuity to me is one of the most important reasons, right? You want, generally, if I'm a S corporation shareholder, I want to have my ownership through a living trust. And we'll circle back on that in a few moments here. So step one is, hey, know why I want to do it. Sit down with an attorney, ideally an attorney that deals in estate planning. And they will help you come up with, usually they have some type of intake form you fill out, you list all your assets, et cetera. And then what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? Do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? What do you want them to do? Is this your first marriage, second marriage? Are you unmarried? All sorts of different input factors. So that helps them then start coming up with questions on creation. Hey, there's things called, say, a marital bypass trust. Hey, I was married once, I had kids, we got divorced, or somebody dies, I get remarried. And hey, you know what? I actually don't want my new spouse to control all my assets when I die. I might bypass some of those and have the trust direct it differently than at their sole direction.
And as the information on the trust then would supersede like marital laws.
Yes. Because they're no longer my assets. They're assets of the trust.
Ah, okay. That's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a whole lot more sense then, because all of a sudden these are not, I don't control this.
Correct.
The trust does.
Correct.
And if you're alive and have a trust, are you the trustee then?
So there are, most trusts are enacted once the language in the trust is enacted upon death.
Okay. But I mean, while you are alive, you are still able to adjust and control the trust.
Correct.
Right? So all of a sudden, in your situation, oh no, I want my new wife to get 33% of blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Okay. So while you're alive, you can make all the adjustments you want to the trust. It's when you pass.
Correct.
That's when it goes.
That's when it gets active, and now it's kind of set in stone.
So, Eric, trust sounds like a really big win.
Yes.
And probably everyone should get it, even if you don't have a business at this point.
Yes, 100%. Basic revocable living trust should be on everybody's radar. Go sit down with an attorney because they're going to ask you your situations and help you come up with like, hey, what makes the most sense? Not just rubber stamp everybody, right? We never say everybody should be an S corp.
Yep.
Just like I say, hey, this might not be the right fit, and maybe you don't have enough assets for it to make sense to be in a trust too, right? There is cost to it, right? It's probably going to cost you several $1,000s for the initial creation.
Okay.
And then once you create the trust, you actually need to fund it, meaning I need to put assets in it, meaning I need to retitle assets into my trust. So say maybe I have my home and I have a mortgage. Normally retitling a mortgage or a home while it has a mortgage on it is hard. Usually they have exceptions for assigning it to a trust.
Okay.
So yeah, generally a very basic revocable living trust is probably the route that I would first start pursuing when I'm thinking about a trust.
But tell me this. Someone doesn't have a trust. They don't know anything about a trust. What's the most important thing that you would tell them?
If somebody doesn't have a trust and they'd like to understand more about a trust.
Yep.
Oh, pick up the phone and come talk to us. We can give them plenty of education. We can ask the right questions to help them understand what makes sense. And then when it's time, if after our conversation makes sense to go reach out to an attorney, we'd have that conversation then.
So realistically with trust, they start out with an accountant.
No.
No?
No. Generally an attorney will draft the trust.
Okay. So just my thought process is they'll start with their
straight to an
accountant.
Attorney.
Okay. Go straight to an attorney with a trust.
Yeah.
But an accountant would know if it's even viable.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Anything else you want to tell me about trust? I should trust the trusts, and
you should trust.
Trust should be trustee as well.
Yes. Trust the trust and make sure your trustee is trusty, and none of your assets will become rusty.
You guys heard it here first. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.